friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I do hope people will find this video encouraging, as that is the purpose of this. And it is about taking the failures or your discouragement that you're feeling right now over things you can't do or things that have gone wrong, and turning that into joy. And this can apply to anything. So as I read through these little scenarios I laid out here, start thinking about some of your own issues that you've been dealing with, and what it is that you can do to find contentment and joy through that circumstances and in spite of that circumstance. So I'm going to start off talking about garden related things because, well, at the time I'm shooting this, it's middle of August, and so we're still for us in the middle of garden season, especially now that our summers kind of keep going later and later. Things are starting later. We're having a colder season. Thus our harvest, if we get one, is much later. And so I've been dealing with a lot of frustrations and discouragement in the past few years in regards to my garden. And yet, I'm sure some of you are looking behind me and seeing all these beautiful grapevines and other things growing, nasturtiums and so on, and thinking, how can you be discouraged over that? Well, I guess that's my point. And so a couple examples would be that this year, my corn, I don't know if I'll get any corn at all this year. And I planted even more than usual this year. And yet, did everything the same as I always do it. And yet, the corn, once I was able to move it from the greenhouse to the main garden, it just sat there for like 2 months and didn't grow at all. And that was very disappointing because that's taking up a lot of garden space I could have otherwise used in other ways. However, right among the corn, I had plenty of borage that plants itself and comes up all around my corn every year, and I do use the flowers a lot in salad. I save some of the seeds that do not fall, and I can turn around and sell those for people who want borage, and it is a great plant to help draw pollinators to the garden, and the bees love it, especially honeybees. It's called a bee bread because it is said to increase the honey output that bees can make when they're provided plenty of borage. But things like my beans, even though they were a lot farther behind this year, my beans are still producing like crazy, like they do every year. And then I've got more pumpkin this year than usual. And my zucchini, even though I'm not getting near as much as I have in previous years, because zucchini usually explodes for us and is very much behind this year, I'm still getting zucchini. And that's something I can find joy in. And then behind me, you'll also see some blueberry plants. They've been up on my deck for probably close to 10 years now. And it used to be I could get several gallons of blueberries just from the plants on my deck in the pots. But the last few years, they've really been struggling due to the cold, and also because I think they're somewhat root bound. I probably only got like 2 pints of blueberries off of them this year, which is discouraging. And yet we actually prefer blackberries over blueberries. We love blueberries, but blackberries and raspberries are our favorite berries. Blackberries around here, they grow wild. There's all kinds of blackberries that grow wild around here. And over on our other piece of property, we get the little tiny wild blackberries now. Those just recently started filling in. And we've been getting the Himalayan blackberries. Both of those have excellent flavor. And then right behind me, I have just on the other side of the deck, on the other side of the grapevines, there are some thornless blackberries that do really great for us as well. And they get huge, as you can see in this image right here. So we get plenty of blackberries. And I could get discouraged over the raspberries that up and died a couple of years ago. And those are like our top favorite. But you know what? I was able to get some raspberries that we found growing wild here and there that had just started coming up on their own, and get them planted next to the fence. And I thought they were going to die, but they're starting to take off. So I'm finding joy in that. Even though I'm not getting raspberries off of those particular plants this year, I did get some off of a little chunk that I found in the back here that just had raspberries all over it, and it was enough for me to combine with some wild blackberries and make some delicious turnovers for Patrick. That's joy right there. And then here's another really big one to me was I've tried a few times now to grow licorice, and my last trial I did actually get a couple of licorice plants, And I actually got them to get through the winter, and they grew somewhat decently the next year. So then I planted them in the ground because I did not want to keep those in pots because I'd be growing them for the root. And this last year, it died. It didn't make it through the winter. It didn't come back. However, I did finally, after years of trying, get arnica and mullein to grow for me this year. And that is very exciting. Those to me are far more important than whether or not I get any licorice, because the licorice has a lot of great health benefits. And I do have some licorice root that I've purchased organic that I keep for various different things. I am most excited actually about the arnica. The mullein is great too. I'm so glad I'm getting that because I've tried for several years with that as well. And I can find joy in that. So who cares about the licorice when I'm getting these other herbs that I've tried for several years to grow. Here's a couple more garden related things that have not been doing good the last couple of years are lettuces and amaranth. And amaranth used to just do beautifully here. In the last 2 years, I hardly get anything, just nothing. However, what I do get in plenty, and I don't even have to work for it, is lamb's quarters, which is excellent to dehydrate up and throw into your mixed greens blend, to saute up, to cook like you would a spinach, or to add fresh to salads. I love it in salads. And so who cares that I'm not getting the amaranth or leaves or lettuce that I usually like to use in salads. I did get some lettuce, just not enough. I've got plenty enough of other things. And cucumbers, we've been getting plenty of those in our greenhouse, and those make a great base for salads. In fact, I prefer a cucumber salad more so than a lettuce-based salad. I'll still mix in the little bit of lettuce that we have, along with the lamb's quarters, the borage, the nasturtium flowers and leaves and more, and it makes an amazing salad. But having that cucumber be the main part of it, love it. It's so great. So I can find joy in that. And who cares about the lettuce? Even though it should be the easiest thing to grow, the last 2 years, it's just been rather pitiful. Now let me give you a few other examples that have nothing to do with the garden. So because of the knee injury that I sustained this past year, I have not been able to make the skirts to sell. In fact, I've had a difficult time even just trying to work on a skirt for myself. And some people might be confused of that if you're new to my channel. I have a treadle machine. So, and because I have little feet, it's much easier for me to run and faster for me to run my treadle machine using both feet, but that puts a strain on my knee. And because of the tear I got in my ACL, and it was a bad tear, and it's taken months to fully heal, and it's still a little tender, I have to be really careful about how much sewing I do on my treadle machine, because it really starts to, as soon as I start trying to use both legs, I can feel it. And so that means I've just had to quit making the skirts to sell altogether and just focus on the sewing things I need to get done for myself. That was really discouraging to me, especially when I know so many people have been wanting skirts. But you know what? The joy is that I have a whole series just on making patchwork skirts, plus another video just on making a skirt out of an old sheet. That was actually the first sewing video I ever put out, and it was one of my most popular videos for the longest time. And anybody can do this. If you can run a sewing machine at all, or even sew by hand, you can make these skirts for yourselves. And the other thing is I can still crochet. And by not being able to do all the sewing, I've been able to get a lot more crocheting done this year. And so I made a doll for my grandbaby. I still haven't put the eyes on it yet because I'm still waiting to see what color her eyes are really going to be. They're kind of at that stage where, even though she's like 5 months old at the time I'm shooting this, her eyes are like some days gray, sometimes hazel, and some days blue. And so I don't know what the true color of them is going to be, but anyway, I was able to do that for her. I made her an Afghan. I did make a bunch of Afghans that I'm putting in a local auction for a good cause, and I do have a couple Afghans I plan to sell. It's been so busy with the garden, I had to put that stuff on hold, but thankfully that's something I still can do, and so I do find joy in that. And I can still make hats and gloves and scarves and any other kind of crocheted things that people are interested in purchasing. Another big one for me this year was we've had our chickens now for a total of 6 years. And so we've still, even though we were initially going to, like every couple of years, add new chickens and, start dispatching the older ones. Of course, as happened, it was really hard for me to take out any of my Buff Orpingtons because they're such great chickens. They've always been great layers through the whole time that I've had them up until this year. Spring started out great, but I had 2 chickens that never did start laying, one that just finally up and died just of old age. And I could tell the other one, because she had the same signs that wasn't laying, she wasn't going to last a whole lot longer either. And then Broomhilda, one of my very favorite, most cuddly chickens, she was started out the year great, was laying like always, just always a very great layer for me. And all of a sudden she quit because she sustained some kind of injury that I never was able to figure out what it was from. I could only assume that maybe she had a bound egg that caused some kind of paralysis, because that can happen. And I gave her time to heal, and she never was getting better. She was constantly limping around and was not laying any eggs at all. And that was really hard for me, because my chickens, they've just been, all of them have been great layers. And we do also have some black sex links that we added a couple years later after we had the buffs. But to see my Buff Orpingtons one by one not doing well, the one died, and then the other 2 we did eventually take out. But the blessing in this was it opened up my learning experience to finally be able to tackle this. And we had, just prior to us taking out the other 2 hens here, we had gone out to a friend's house that had invited us to be a part of this big thing with a couple other families. We get in there and learn how to process chickens, and we'd all get some chicken to take home. And it was a great experience, and I learned so much, and it made me so much more brave, and to be able to finally take out Broomhilda, because I didn't know if she was even in pain or not, but I know it pained me watching her limp around the yard. So, and I realized that even if she ever did heal up, she would never start laying again, because next year she'd be 7 years old, and most likely the laying would stop. And then the other Dixie, the one I'd nursed back to health when I thought she was going to die several years ago, she's the other one I knew that was just done. She was just old. And so we took her out, and it was difficult, but I was able to do it. And I was actually really proud of myself that I got in there. I was a part of the process. It just needed to be done. It was just time. And also the other blessing was getting 2 new chickens to add from those same friends. They're already laying, and they've been laying on a regular basis every day now, and we're going to be getting more. And so all of this became a great learning experience that I knew I would have to deal with at some point. As hard as it was seeing those chickens go, once I made the decision, I was able to just get it done. And then just life in general, we all have these things where, especially if you have any kind of social media whatsoever, and even if you're only following people that tend to think more like you, they have gardens, maybe they have chickens, maybe they have a big farm, or whatever it is that they're doing, we can often get discouraged when we see all the different things other people are doing. Maybe you're like us, and you live just in a shy 1/3 acre lot, and you don't have the space to have sheep or goats or cattle of any kind. Maybe you can have chickens, maybe not. It can get really discouraging seeing what other people are doing. And so when it comes to those kind of things, it's learning how to find the joy in what you are able to do. I have several of my followers that live in apartments or in some kind of rented place where they can't do a lot of gardening, if any at all, but they can still do some container gardening on their deck or even in their windowsills, and find joy in those kind of things. Every little bit that you can do can bring you joy, even if it's growing one single herb that you can turn around and use it as medicine, or use it for making teas, or just use it for adding fresh into your things that you're making, can bring so much joy and satisfaction. And then the other things, like, I see people, like, especially in the homesteading community, people running off to all these different conventions there are out there. And I get it. Those are great. And there's, for so many years, I was like, man, I wish I could be a part. About 99% of them are on the other side of the states from us. And that's just too far. The time and the money it would take to attend any of these things It's just too expensive. What would we do with all of our chickens and our dog? And what about the grandbabies that need me now and their parents that need me? And the garden that needs to be tended every single day. There's just no way I could get away from that, let alone the cost to fly over to these places, because that would be the way we would have to go. And it's just not worth it to me to do that. Though it's still, when I see all these people getting to meet Doug and Stacy, who are really wonderful people. We've been friends with them. We've talked to them on the phone. And I see all these people getting to actually meet up with them in person. And it makes me sad that I cannot do that. And yet, you know what? I have a good life right here. All the work that we're putting in here, all the things that we're doing, and the time I get to spend with my grandbabies, these are a blessing to me. And the same thing goes with taking vacations. Once in a great while, I'll see somebody's beautiful pictures of Hawaii or this place or that place, and I think, boy, it would be kind of nice to get away every now and then. But then when I stop and think about it, I realize, you know what? I don't need that. We've got a beautiful piece of property just down the road that if I really need to escape this piece right here where most of the work happens, I can just go over there. I can sit on one of the swings that Patrick built last year and just enjoy the fresh air, the shade of all the alder trees around, and go out and pick some blackberries, go down to the creek and just get a needed break from being here. And that's all the vacation I need. That works out good. I can squeeze in the time to do that and still have time to come home in the same day and finish a lot of projects that I've started. And you know what? Spending time with family and friends, we don't need fancy vacations to run off and get away from everybody here. Our family and our close friends are here. And we get the pleasure of at least once a month, we have a family dinner here or at our other piece of property. We'll do a barbecue down there in the nice months. We do that once a month. And then another time a month, we go out to our good friend's house and spend a dinner. We have game night. We talk about spiritual things, and it's refreshing. It's wonderful. And again, that's all the vacation I need. And it's something I can truly find joy in. I would hate to spend a whole bunch of money making a trip to Hawaii to get away from the rains here and be like other families that have done that. And the whole time they were in Hawaii, it rained on them. And it's like, you know what? I can be grateful for the beautiful weather we have here when we have it. And I don't need to spend a lot of money going to Hawaii, and be grateful that we do get plenty of rain to water our gardens and fill up our water tanks. And I'm happy about that. And so a lot of times it's just a matter of redirecting, that discouragement. It really comes down to not comparing your life to anyone else's, even those who are most like-minded to you. It is too easy to look at things that they can grow or do or have that you can't, and feel discouraged. But then you got to stop and take a step back and look at what all the blessings that are already in your life and the things that you can do regardless of your situation. I've done a couple videos that I think that go right along hand in hand with this, and one of them was focusing on what you can do, not on what you can't. I'll link that one down below. And then another video, what if you can't afford to prepare or afford to have a garden or afford to have whatever. And these are a couple of videos I think go right hand in hand with that, because it's so easy to focus on what we can't do than what we have or what we can. I do hope that you'll go watch these and that they will really help you change your focus. And you know what? I have to deal with it almost daily. It's not like I'm always this happy-go-lucky person. I have days where I'm so discouraged or frustrated or angry. And believe it or not, I have a temper. I have a fiery temper, people. And I have to stop and just get a hold of myself and realize that, you know what? Why am I so upset about this, that, or the other thing when I've got all these other many blessings in my life? So no matter where you are, no matter how perfect somebody's life may seem, we all have to deal with it. And nobody's above dealing with discouragement or failures of any kind. And so it's just a matter of how we deal with it, and will we allow ourselves to be able to learn from those failures or find the joy in the discouragement and then make ourselves better people. And, you know, even if it's a daily battle, I strongly believe we can all do that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and any thoughts that you would like to share, please put them in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.